Marcy, Skylight, Gray, Cliff, and Redfield done. Now the long walk back to the lodge. 3:55 a.m., just signed in. Santanoni Range, let's go. The wind is whipping here in the Seward Range today. Just finished the Macomb slide and my legs are on fire. Well, I fell victim to the floating logs again. Made it to the top of East Dix. Peak number 3 of 5 for today here in the Dix Range. Avalanche Pass. On top of Rocky Peak Ridge. It's like a hurricane up here. Rain and wind here on Tabletop. Whiteface, number 6. Muddy day here on Street and Nye for number 7 and 8. Sunny and blue on Haystack. Algonquin, up in the clouds, number 18. Gothics, number 22. Panther, number 38. Allen, number 45. 7:12 a.m. Big Slide, Adirondack, 46er. You're listening to the 46 of 46 podcast. May 6th, 2019. Spring is finally in full effect here in the Adirondacks, and you know what that means. No, not hiking. Rain. The correct answer was rain. I also would have accepted still snowing, winter-ish, or not spring. But mostly it's been raining here in April and May as the winter season slowly disappears into history, making way for spring and the rebirth and the color. Man, I've missed seeing green everywhere I go. I mean, that's what makes the Adirondacks great, in my opinion, the abundance of green everywhere. But we finally had a nice day, easily the nicest day of the year yet. Sunny, blue skies, and a high of 70 was in the forecast today, so I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to get out on the trail. And I was finally going to hike a mountain I've heard so many great things about, along with seeing so many amazing photos from Jay Mountain over in Upper Jay, New York, part of the Jay Mountain Wilderness. And yes, I can say the word Jay a few more times in a sentence if that's what you're thinking. Jay Mountain is a true hidden gem, and I've been trying to get a hike in over there for quite some time, and I had a feeling that the snow was melted in that part of the Adirondacks, since the snow in Jay and that whole area tends to melt way before the snow in Lake Placid does year after year, and since it was a smaller peak compared to many, today was the perfect day for it. I decided the night before that since the weather was going to be great, I didn't need to start hiking at 4:30 a.m. like usual. And I decided to leave the house at 5 a.m. instead. So by the time I arrive at the trailhead, around 5:40 or so, the sun would have just risen at 5:38, and then I can sign in just before 6 a.m. A good time to start this small, yet super epic mountain. So it was early in the morning. I left my house and started driving in the dark from Saranac Lake to Jay, across Lake Placid, through the Wilmington Notch, past Whiteface Mountain and over to Jay. Once I got to where I thought the trailhead was, I didn't see any signs of a trailhead anywhere. So I continued driving further along Upland Meadows Road before turning around and giving it another drive-by since I had to have missed it. And then there it was. I saw the trailhead across the street. It was on the left side of the road, just before the Jay Mountain Road, Upland Meadows Road intersection. I was looking on the right side of the road. So I parked my car, the only one there, grabbed my gear out of the back of my van, and I hit the trail. Jay Mountain is part of the Adirondack 100 highest list, sitting at number 82 with an elevation of 3,576 feet and an elevation gain of 2,200 feet on this 8-mile trek. Most of the elevation gain, however, is made during the initial 2.5 miles before the trail follows an open ridgeline, a highway in the sky as you make your way across the 3 summits of Jay Mountain, hiking along the open ridge with arguably the most unique views of any mountain in the Adirondacks. I signed in at the registry just a few steps up the trail at 6 a.m. on the dot, first of the day per usual. Right from the start, the trail begins a gradual but steady climb. The first 2.5 miles of the trail is almost exclusively a soft dirt trail filled with switchbacks all the way up to the ridge. One of the many fun parts of this hike is having views literally footsteps away from the trailhead, because the trail starts at a higher elevation as it is and has big views of Whiteface and many other mountains and lakes in this area that you can see right through the open trees. Of course, once the leaves come onto these trees a few weeks from now, most of those views will be gone. But it was clear enough to enjoy today. So it didn't take too long to get that feeling, the first time you're on the trail and you see those mountain views behind you, you get that first, I'm in the mountains, that moment. Didn't take long. The beginning of the hike takes you through a very open hardwood forest, some spruces, as the soft switchback dirt trail runs from blue trail marker to blue trail marker. The DEC recently made this an official trail, which I believe was once a herd path, and they did a great job labeling the trail all the way up. Not long into the hike, the trail moves along an old rock wall in the woods before climbing up and over it, continuing parallel with this rock wall. No sign of snow or ice anywhere today, which was exactly what I had hoped for as I continued climbing, zigzagging my way up the mountain on this very enjoyable trail. The constant climb is great, and I imagine this mountain would be an enjoyable one for trail runners in particular, since the ground is so soft, not a ton of rocks, and a trail you can move fast on. After hiking up and over a small ridge, the trail dips back down into a small valley, with views of what's to come high in front of me through the trees, as the sun continued rising over the mountains. It turned the mountain into a great silhouette while the morning sun lit up the woods all around me.
So the sun is starting to make its way over the ridge, starting to light up everything pretty nicely. The trail continues to climb. It's a pretty moderate climb. A lot of switchbacks, pretty steady. No big steep sections yet. Just kind of switchbacking yourself up the mountain. And I can see the summit through the trees right now as the sun is shining from right behind it. So it's kind of silhouette at the moment, but it looks pretty cool as I stare into the sun. Definitely going to be a steeper climb from where I currently am to where I'm going to be going over there. But that is to be expected.
I continued along and was able to maintain a nice consistent pace because, as I mentioned, the trail really stays consistent as it climbs. A gradual elevation yet constant. You just keep walking up the switchbacks one after the other. Left, turn right, turn left. I was particularly impressed today with how defined this trail is as well. The forest is filled with leaves like usual, but the dirt trail had no leaves on it anywhere. Just a nice, maybe 24-inch wide brown dirt trail through the woods. Very picturesque. I continued climbing up, passing over a small stream or two as the winter runoff made its way down the mountain, while the forest continued getting thicker and thicker as the elevation increased.
As I'm getting higher up, there's definitely a lot more birch trees, spruces, pines, and the forest is much thicker now as we make our way up and get higher in elevation. The birds are chirping though. They are out. As I make my way around the bend here, what I assume would be the summit up there through the trees.
Just after I passed over 3,000 feet of elevation, as I climbed up a decently eroded stretch of trail, similar looking and feeling to an eroded herd path trail you'll find in the high peaks, cut a foot or two into the mountain floor. Kind of reminded me of the trail up Tabletop in particular. But as I came around the bend of a switchback, something big moved and caught the corner of my eye, and I turned, and for the first time ever, I saw a deer up on the trail, and at over 3,000 feet elevation, no less. I jokingly often tell people, you'll only come across 3 types of animals while you're hiking in the Adirondack Mountains: birds, chipmunks, and toads. But there it was. A big old deer way up here on J Mountain, so that was a first. Still no snow, and a minimal amount of mud today, despite being mud season. There was no more mud now than there will be in July or August, so that was great because the vast majority of the trail was dry and felt like a summer's day. Towards the top, there's a section that goes through some tall grass or straw-like looking terrain that allowed for some great open views to the left. As I continued to climb up this constant switchback trail, I came to the first and only trail junction on the day. I felt like the trail going right was one of those trails that people formed on their own to go check out some views, but it wasn't the actual trail, so my gut told me to go left. So I went left, started climbing up some rock slabs, and I had a feeling that I must be near the top at this point. And then, sure enough, after climbing the boulders and a quick scramble up the slab, I was on top of the J Mountain lookout, overlooking enormous 360-degree views. Views so far that you're looking into Canada. And then you have high peaks all around. You have the Great Range, Giant, Rocky Peak Ridge, then Moose and Mackenzie, Whiteface, all in front of me. And then on the other side, Mount Mansfield and the Green Mountains as well. So, as you can imagine, this rocky summit is an absolute dream. One of the best. Now, I will say I am slightly confused by exactly what this area is, or exactly where the true summit of J Mountain is, because this sure seems very summit-like, but not like a false summit. I suppose it's considered the J Mountain Lookout, but from here I could see it and was able to figure out where that Highway in the Sky Ridge Walk begins, since I could see where the trail to the right from moments earlier was heading, along the ridge to one of the other J summits. Now it makes sense. But I made it to this lookout or summit or whatever you want to call it, since some say there are 3 summits on J, though maybe this is just considered a huge lookout. I don't know. Regardless, I made it to this lookout at 7:20 a.m., 1 hour and 20 minutes into the day. If someone wanted to just stay here and not enjoy the Highway in the Sky Ridge Walk, I couldn't blame them because these views here are hard to beat. Though I would say the Ridge Walk is so much more unique than anything else and must be experienced if you're already up here at elevation anyways. I stayed and enjoyed the views for a good 10 minutes and decided to get going onto the ridge. So after a minute or two of having to remember where exactly I came onto this beautiful summity slab, I found the trail and headed back to the junction. From this junction to the other summits of J, you won't see trail markers anymore as well. So maybe according to the DEC, this is the actual J Mountain summit? I don't know. But the trail on the ridge walk is quite obvious, with lots and lots of cairns as well on the slabs to follow, so it's pretty easy to figure out. So don't be too nervous about that. It was finally time to experience what I've heard so much about. I started on the ridge walk, going back in the woods for a short distance before coming back out to the enormous views on the right. 180 degrees facing the high peaks as this sometimes hard dirt, sometimes soft dirt, sometimes gravel, sometimes sand, sometimes slab, and even sometimes grass-like trail walks along the open ridge towards the rocky summits of J, the three-headed monster, since it has so many peaks. And the sun is shining now. I'm just following the cairns right now, which are pretty nicely dispersed, thanks to whoever did that. Big jump. Big jump. And we're off of that summit. Well, off of the boulders, I should say. Now we're on some nice dirt sections of trail. Getting nice and scratched. Good thing I wore pants today. It is early May, so it's not really shorts weather. And I didn't really know what to expect up here. So, pants it was. But my pants unzip into shorts, so I'm prepared for everything. Just everything. Plus, style-wise, come on. If your pants ain't unzipping to shorts, you ain't living. That's what I always say. I can't explain into words to all of you listening how magnificent and unique this 1.6 mile stretch of trail really is. Just picture being in a different world as you walk 3,500 feet in the sky along the trail with the entire world to the right of you. Boom, just views for miles and miles. If you've hiked this mountain, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. Neither words nor pictures can truly do it justice. You'll all just have to experience it firsthand. Save it for a sunny day, also. Large portions of this stretch run along a slab, walking from cairn to cairn, then back in the woods for a minute, then back out onto a more very well-defined dirt trail, walking through stretches that seem like an open field up in the sky. And then you'll climb up and over another ridge as you keep making your way towards the J summit, which you constantly see up in the distance, right in front of you. This part of the hike took me forever because I just couldn't stop myself from constantly stopping to take photos. I couldn't believe how amazing this was. It was incredible. Eventually, I came to a very large flat slab area that has 2 medium-sized boulders sitting perfectly, almost like nature's version of a park bench, inviting every visitor to sit on the rocks, facing the open views, take a minute to really absorb the beauty that is right before your very eyes. You know, and it's almost like it's